Good morning. And warm greetings to everyone, whether you're here with us today in person or joining from home via YouTube, and especially warm greetings to people who are here for the first time. We're really glad you're with us. Just a few announcements before the service begins. First, the winter book group discussion is going to meet for the first time this Wednesday, February 1st at 10:30 in the Historical Room. If you want details, please see the weekly church online announcements or talk with Pat Cronin. Let's see, I don't think Pat is here today, but her contact information is in the church directory. Also on Saturday, February 11th, not this Saturday, but the following Saturday, the Gloucester Meeting House Foundation is going to present a concert of organ masterworks here in the church sanctuary on our wonderful organ. Again, you'll find more information in the online announcements or contact Charles Nazarian. Charles is here this morning. Charles, you want to raise your hand? Thank you. If you're watching from home, this would be a good time to get a candle or chalice ready if you'd like to join us in spirit in a few minutes when we light our chalice here. And viewers from home might also now want to download the order of today's service from the link that is near the top of Friday's online announcements, if you want to follow along. We hope all of you who are here this morning will join us after the service for coffee and conversation in the church vestry, which, as you probably know, is located down these stairs and then straight across the hall and down a few more stairs. There is more interesting news about church life in the weekly online announcements. If you are not receiving them each Friday in your inbox, do let Christine, our church administrator, know, and she'll make sure that gets straightened out. We're very happy today to welcome to our pulpit the Reverend Wendy Page. Wendy is a Unitarian Universalist minister serving as a hospice and hospital chaplain in the greater Boston area. Her previous careers include photography and ceramics, and also software engineering. Modern quilting is her creative outlet these days. Reverend Wendy attended Andover Newton Theological School, where she first met Reverend Janet. And they had the joy of reconnecting last summer on retreat at that famous trip to Iona in Scotland. And now the musical prelude will begin our morning service.
Welcome this winter morning, where the light comes earlier every morning. Yay. Welcome if you're here in this beautiful sanctuary, or you are at home or out in the world. Welcome if you're joyful. Welcome if you're sad. Welcome as the news and the state of this fragile earth is breaking your heart. Welcome if you're celebrating. Welcome if you're grieving. Welcome if you're lonely. Welcome if you are in pain or couldn't sleep last night. Welcome, however you are, into this moment of worship and community. These words by Kathleen McTeague. We come together this morning to remind one another to rest for a moment on the forming edge of our lives, to resist the headlong tumble into the next moment until we claim for ourselves awareness and gratitude, taking the time to look into each other's faces and see their communion, the reflection of our own eyes. This house of laughter and silence, memory and hope is hallowed by our presence together. Please join in singing the opening hymn, which is number 389, Gathered Here in the Gray Hymnal.
Here in
Our chalice lighting words, studied by each other by Reverend Scott Taylor. Pulled in many directions by the demands of our days, we light this chalice to remind us of the still point deep inside. Made unsteady by the winds of unpredictable paths, we light this chalice to remember the shelter of each other. Longing for lights that lead us back to our truest selves, we kindle this chalice to illuminate the faces of friends and sacred companions, recalling once again that we find our way through the willingness to take each other's hand. In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the glories and the mysteries of this great gift. Two Buddhist monks, one old and one young, set off on a journey by foot. They came to a river with a swift current, and as they were about to cross, a young, beautiful woman approached them and asked for help. They looked at each other because they had taken a vow never to touch a woman. But the older monk picked her up and carried her across the river and gently placed her down. And then the two men continued on their journey. The young monk was in turmoil. I mean, how could his friend have done what he did? He had broken their vow. He mulled this over in his head, getting more and more upset. An hour passed, a second hour passed, 3, 4 hours, and he's fuming inside. Finally, he blurts out, "How could you have done that? How could you have broken our vow?" And his older companion turned to him and gently said, "I set the woman down back at the river. You're still carrying her." Let us pray. These good words by Reverend Joe Cherry. This is my prayer. Let the center hold. The center is what holds our faith together. The strength of the center is what allows us to stretch farther into the future, to the unknown, the untried, the uncertain, the unnerving, the places where growth happens. Let the center be strong, and let the center of this living tradition move with the times. Let the center of our living tradition lead the times. May the strength of the center strengthen us as we seek, as we embody compassion, work for equity, demand justice for all. Let our center hold, strong as an old oak tree, flexible as the willow tree, life-giving as the orange tree, evergreen as the pine trees, and beautiful as the almond tree in blossom. Amen. Let us sit and let the silence wash over us.
The reading is How Good to Center Down by Howard Thurman. How good it is to center down, to sit quietly and see oneself pass by. The streets of our minds seethe with endless traffic. Our spirits resound with clashings, with noisy silences. while something deep within hungers and thirsts for the still moment and the resting lull. With full intensity we seek, ere the quiet passes, a fresh sense of order in our living. A direction, a strong, sure purpose that will structure our confusion and bring meaning in our chaos. We look at ourselves in this waiting moment, the kinds of people we are. The questions persist. What are we doing with our lives? What are the motives that order our days? What is the end of our doings? Where are we trying to go? Where do we put the emphasis and where are our values focused? For what end do we make sacrifices? Where is my treasure? And what do I love most in life? What do I hate most in life? And to what am I true? Over and over, the questions beat in upon the waiting moment. As we listen, floating up through all the jangling echoes of our turbulence, there is a sound of another kind, a deeper note, which only the stillness of the heart makes clear. It moves directly to the core of our being. Our questions are answered, our spirits refreshed, and we move back into the traffic of our daily round with the peace of the eternal in our step. How good it is to center down. So ends the reading. And now, to support this community of caring and all of its work in the world, this morning's offering will now be gratefully received. We are the stewards of what has been handed down to us by those who have gone before. Blessings upon the givers and upon your gifts.
Take a deep breath. Deep inhale, deep exhale. Give yourself a good stretch. Oh, feel your body. Feel your feet on the floor. Ooh, I like the choir, look at you. Yeah. Feel your body. Feel your feet on the floor. Feel your weight seated on the pew or in the chair or sofa at home. How does your body feel this morning? Are there any areas of discomfort? Are you relaxed? Are you here now? It's not easy to be present. We are pulled into the past, ruminating on scenes we might have handled differently. Why was I later than I expected to be? Because I had to get gas in my car this morning. All these thoughts going through my head. We're pulled into the future, no worries or planning, into worries or planning. What will I have for lunch? What does the afternoon look like? Can I go for a walk? And then there are the global issues, climate change, politics, racial justice work, all pulling on our minds. Uh-oh, did I just send you off away out of this place and time? Take another deep breath and return. Deep inhale, deep exhale. Are you back? Josh Rothman, in a recent New Yorker article called Thought Process, explores different modes of thinking, some visual, some internal monologues. In one study, people were given devices which would randomly beep, and each subject was asked to record everything going on in their brains at that moment. The thoughts tended to be multi-layered. In one instance, a woman is answering a question that her boyfriend has asked her, while internally she's trying to spell the word periodontist. It's hard to be present. When we meditate, we discover our mind wandering and we feel like we're failing to be present. But it is that noticing that is important, and we return to the breath or our mantra and are present again. Deep inhale, deep exhale. Centering is important. It helps us to be fully present. Like the older monk in the story, we can let go of the past when it is done instead of carrying it into the present. Centering can take us out of the agitation and frenzy of our daily lives. My initial introduction to meditation many years ago was in a class taught at the Cambridge Insight Meditation Center. This class required me to drive through Cambridge during rush hour to get to the class. My anxiety about being late to class would rise as the traffic slowed to a crawl and I hit an unbearable number of red lights. And then at a particular red light, as I sat there, mind racing, heart pounding, I realized it was kind of ridiculous to get so agitated on my trip to learn to meditate. I started to breathe deeply at the red light, seeing it as an invitation to be present, not rushing to get to a destination where I would be practicing to be present. That red light is what I remember most about the class, and it was its most potent lesson. Deep inhale, deep exhale. Over the years, I've had the privilege of attending several of the late Vietnamese Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh's week-long retreats. And more recently, I was able to travel with a group of seminarians to Myanmar, Burma, where we practice meditation at a Buddhist monastery. It is important to me, but I've come to realize that meditation is not an end in itself. It is a means to engage fully with what is happening to us right now, not in the past, not in the future. It's a tool, not the goal. In chaplaincy work, our job is to show up and be present for people we are serving. Deep listening and being present is essential. Our task is to create the space for others to be seen and heard. The hardest thing for me to learn was to talk less and listen more. I've had to recognize that I can get anxious in the silence, and I want to fill it with chatter. Meditation helps me still that anxiety and give the gift of silence and the space for patients and loved ones to explore what's going on in their minds and their hearts. And sometimes grace happens. God shows up, or something shows up. Something happens for them. Often, I don't know what it is. Often, I don't even know it's happened unless someone shares it with me, shares what that visit has meant to them. What is grace? Grace is an unearned gift. I think that something like that happens when I show up for patients and I'm being fully present. Where does this grace come from? From that which is greater than us, the holy, the universe, call it what you will. Being grounded and present prepares us for the work that we do in our day-to-day world. Howard Thurman eloquently points to this with his words, "A deeper note, which only the stillness of the heart makes clear. It moves directly to the core of our being. Our questions are answered, our spirits refreshed, and we move back into the traffic of our daily round with the peace of the eternal in our step. How good it is to center down." Now, I'm of an age, especially as we age, change is hard. Doing the hard work of transformation takes effort. Justice work means taking a deep look into our past, the privilege we carry, the stories we have told ourselves, country stories, family stories, church stories. In my home church in Arlington, we're exploring the church's history with slavery. We know the names of some of the people held in bondage by the original families. We're investigating an unmarked mound in the churchyard cemetery. We now know there are bodies interred below. We are involving the larger community in the process. It was the town itself that did the non-invasive testing to discover that something was buried below. I don't know what the technology was, but they confirmed that there are bodies buried in an unmarked grave. We have a group that meets to explore the meaning for us today in our liberal community to own that past. This work is hard. It is slow, and it can bring up many feelings of grief, shame, or resistance. Centering ourselves, being able to see our reactions, feel our feelings, name them, is an important part of the work. We need grace to do the work. But I don't think that grace is something that only the holy provides. It's something we give to one another. In her MLK speech at Arlington Town Hall this year, Tanisha Sullivan, the current NAACP president of the Boston chapter, talked about Martin Luther King's work and legacy and how important grace is as we try to change this troubled world. She said we need to be open to people, for people to change and be able to welcome in as they change. She used the example of a David Duke-like person. Do you remember who David Duke was? The head of the KKK for many years. The movement toward radical justice needs to be open to changing hearts and minds and have grace to welcome folks into the movement. Now, this is not easy to do at all. If you want to change the world, often the hardest place to change is your own heart. And if we're trying to change how we are in the world, we need grace from others as we stumble in our efforts to learn and to be different. Often our perfectionism gets in the way of our practicing change. One of the traits of whiteness is perfectionism. It took me a long time to understand that, but I'm coming to see it as I practice out in the world. This is played out in my efforts to learn Spanish to speak to my patients and their families. Reaching out to non-English speaking patients and improving my communication with them is a justice issue. Imagine being in the hospital with a life-threatening health issue and not speaking the language. It's scary enough to be ill, to be in pain, but add to that not being able to communicate, to understand the fine points of your diagnosis, of what's being said to you. People walk into your room, walk out of your room. You don't communicate with them. You don't have that human touch. The hospitals do have interpreters, and healthcare providers can call an interpreter to come or to aid over the phone. But I have found trying to have a chaplaincy visit with a third person interpreting is really, really difficult. It's difficult to be fully centered and present, to create the space that people need, to create that silence. I want to rush through what I need to say, the interpreter saying what I'm saying. I kind of miss creating the space. So I started taking Spanish lessons. I work hard, but it seems like I forget more than I remember. I stick at it for my patients and to exercise my aging brain. It was hard at first to initiate a conversation in Spanish. I know I make mistakes. It's embarrassing. My perfectionist inner voice kicks in, and I have to push through my embarrassment. But now I can have short conversations with folks, find out basic needs, and interact with them enough to know if I need to call for an interpreter. And more important, I can relax and be present with them, not filled with performance anxiety as I used to be. People appreciate that I'm trying to meet them where they are comfortable. When I try to use my Spanish, I receive grace from those who welcome me trying to speak their language. They are generous and compassionate with my feeble attempts. Grace is present in those interactions. On the other hand, there's the grace that Tanisha Sullivan alluded to in her MLK speech. In today's polarized political situation, being open to people who think differently than we do is a serious spiritual practice. But we need to hold on to the hope of change. Grassroots organizers work year-long, knocking on doors, getting to know people and their concerns. They meet them where they are. They build relationships with them over time. They need to be fully present and grounded. It is a lesson I practice as I talk to voters on the phone bank. I need to meet them where they are. I need to be fully present. I breathe in, I breathe out. I need to listen to their concerns, to really see them, for them to start to trust me. Grace enters as I see them and open to them. I have to believe that there is the possibility of change for change to happen. And the change happens on both sides as we start to see each other. Now, I'm not saying that this is easy. It's really hard, but it is important. Staying centered, grounded, and present is the important starting place for connection and change. It creates the space for grace to enter into our interactions. And in this world, the possibility of creating space for change and for inviting grace into our interactions is a deep breath, a sigh. Breathe in, breathe out. Blessed be. Amen. Please join me in the unison prayer printed in your order of service. Eternal Spirit, earth maker, pain bearer, life giver, source of all that is and shall be, Father and Mother of us all, loving God in whom is heaven, the hallowing of your name echo through the universe. The way of your justice be followed by the peoples of the world. Your heavenly will be done by all created beings. Your commonwealth of peace and freedom sustain our hope and come on earth. With the bread we need for today, feed us. In the hurts we absorb from one another, forgive us. In times of temptation, test, strengthen us. From trial too great to endure, spare us. From the grip of all that is evil, free us. For you reign in the glory of the power that is above, now and forever. Amen. Please join in the closing hymn, number 83, Winds Be Still. closing words by Eric Williams. Blessed is the path on which you travel. Blessed is the body that carries you upon it. Blessed is your heart that has heard the call. Blessed is your mind that discerns the way. Blessed is the gift that you will receive by going. Truly blessed is the gift that you will become on the journey. May you go forth in peace. Please join in the extinguishing the chalice reading in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.